It's fair to give Jalen Hurts his credit for how well he performed against the Minnesota Vikings. He performed very well, but it's also fair to say this is not something he does on a regular basis. I look at this more as an anomaly than as what I expect to happen going forward. So the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Minnesota Vikings yesterday in what was a very impressive performance by Jalen Hurts. I mean, passer rating of 158.3. You have to give him credit there. The offensive line was fantastic. And, the receivers played at a very high level. I mean, Carson Wentz, what are we doing here, man? Holy cow. The downfall of Carson Wentz really needs to be studied. Is something up there in the city of Philadelphia, Carson Wentz and Ben Simmons, two of the greatest downfalls of the last century, right? But I do want to get into this game. It's fair to give Jalen Hurts his credit for how well he performed against the Minnesota Vikings. He performed very well. But it's also fair to say this is not something he does on a regular basis. I look at this more as an anomaly than as what I expect to happen going forward. It is an accurate take to say that Jalen Hurts, relative to NFL quarterbacks, which I guess now we have to be more literal and say that, in comparison to NFL quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts is not that good of a thrower of the football. When teams force him to throw the ball, they usually have success against the Eagles offense, which is why the Eagles offense is one of the worst passing attacks in football. You can continue to blame the offensive coordinator, even though this is the type of offense that Jalen Hurts wants to run. It's his call, which is why it's looked the same over the past 3 years, regardless who the offensive coordinator is. But when you look at Jalen Hurts, the game is so easy for him, not because of him, because of the surrounding pieces. When you have 5 seconds to throw the football, that offensive line's playing at the level that they play at. When you have the receivers that you have, eventually those guys are going to get open. Eventually they're going to be able to make a play. That's where I come from here with Jalen Hurts. It's not hate. I got nothing against the guy. It's just an honest assessment. When I turn on the tape, when I watch the game, and I see him struggling to read defenses properly, not delivering the ball on time, the fact that he is a limited passer. Yeah. And does this come off as hate? Sure. I guess you could say that. But at the same time, I get very annoyed when Jalen Hurts consistently is underwhelming as a passer. And then the one game that he looks like he's an actual legitimate NFL quarterback, all over social media, you see people, oh, I thought he couldn't throw the ball. No, he obviously can throw the ball. He's an NFL quarterback, but relative to NFL quarterbacks, he does not throw the ball as well as probably about 20 quarterbacks in the NFL. The Eagles offense is an absolute cheat code. Even though they struggle running the football, do you think teams aren't deathly afraid of that run game with Saquon Barkley? They are. That's why the Eagles have so much space on the field to throw the football, because of the fact that teams look at Saquon Barkley and they say, oh, that's still a really damn good running back, and we have to take that into account. But that's just my diatribe or my soliloquy, whatever you want to call it, on Jalen Hurts. He's a quarterback that, in spots, over the course of a season, he'll have a few games over the course of the season sprinkled in where he looks like this. But then he'll have games where he'll have 110, 120 yards, and they'll win the game. Why? Because they have an elite team around him, not because they have an elite quarterback. So, I don't like that I have to do that to Jalen Hurts, but at the same time, I do feel like it's a bit disingenuous when he struggles the way he does over the course of a season, and then when he has these games sprinkled in where he actually plays the way he should be playing, people say that the people who accurately assess the guy and say, there's a lot of meat left on the bone with this offense, and it's because of the quarterback, they'll say, no, you're wrong, while also being wrong consistently about the guy. That's besides the point. Do I think that this is a game that turns around the Eagles season? I don't see that, because when I watch the game, Carson Wentz kept that Minnesota Vikings team or he kept that Eagles. No, he made it so that the Minnesota Vikings couldn't go ahead and win this game. That's just the way I feel. Like Carson Wentz held back this Minnesota Vikings offense. I mean, it was bad. So many times there was potential touchdowns that he left on the board because he's just inaccurate as hell. He really struggles with accuracy. And, like, look, he's a backup quarterback at the end of the day. And as far as backup quarterbacks go, he's a fine backup quarterback. I don't think he's a starting quarterback. Like, I know there's people who say, you put him in the right system, maybe it could happen. Like, no, he's in the right system. And I don't think you can look at what Carson Wentz is and say that that's a legitimate starting quarterback over the course of 17 games. If you need him to play a few games, he will make enough plays to keep your team afloat. As a backup quarterback, I like him. But, I mean, overall, like, I still have concerns about this Eagles team. Like, if this was their FU game because they're coming off the 2-game losing streak and they're going to come out more motivated to make something happen, if this is their FU game, I look at that and I'm like, is that all you guys got? Like, I don't know. For a lot of that game, especially the first half, like the passing numbers looked good for Jalen Hurts, but like the Vikings were in that game up until Jalen Hurts hit A.J. Brown down the field, right? Like, that's what happened there. This wasn't some blow-away, runaway victory. Like, no, this was a close game for a lot of the game. A lot of it was because the offense wasn't playing that well for the Eagles in the first half of the game. Like, it just wasn't. Like, they had, like, think about it, right? Offensively, when you look at what the Eagles did on offense yesterday, they put up 21 points because they had the pick six that Carson Wentz threw, right? So, like, if they didn't have that pick six, and this sounds like me hating, it's really not. It's just the reality of the situation. If they didn't get that pick six, they probably lose that game yesterday. Like, that's how underwhelming their offense was in the first half of the game, despite the fact that the passing numbers looked good for Jalen Hurts. I don't know. I'm not impressed with the team at all. Like, to me, I don't think that this divisional race is over for the NFC East yet. I think the Eagles are up like 2 games on the Cowboys. The Cowboys can make that up 1.5 games, like that they'll get back when they beat them in Dallas, because I think Dallas is probably going to beat them in Dallas. But, I don't know. I'm just not sold on this team. I'm just really not.